start this session. Thank you everyone for joining today. I just want to say a big thank you to all of you actually filled in the Google Forms for us last week. It will help us immensely through the year to get some information about what to talk about and what you guys want to learn. So I just want to thank you all for signing in the form, those who participated. Another thing I want to mention is I'll take the Q&As at the end of the session. If you have any questions, please keep them for the end. Alternatively, we can have a chat at the end if you want to have any comments or things like that. You're welcome to pop it in the chat and I'll look at it, or alternatively, we can just chat about it at the end. So that brings me to today's class, which is designing a cracking portfolio and CV. Now, I just want to mention that what I'm sharing today is based off my personal experiences that I've experienced throughout my career and what I've also seen in the industry. So yeah, let's get cracking. What I want to say is at the end of the talk, and the end of the day, it's your portfolio and your career. I can only give you guidance and some tips and recommendations, but ultimately you need to design and craft your website or your portfolio for the career and the job that you want to do at the end of the day. And it's your work, it's not my work. I can only give you advice and some ideas, but ultimately it's your portfolio and your work. So what will we be covering today? We'll cover the CV, the portfolio, and the hiring process. Now, the hiring process, I will talk about how recruiters and hiring managers actually work when they hire candidates. That brings me to CV or resume. I'm not actually sure what they call it in Norway, but in South Africa, CV and probably general all over the world. But essentially, your CV should be short and sweet, no more than 2 pages long. You can show a bit of personality, show them what you're about, show them a picture or bring a bit of personality in your resume or CV. Use relevant words. When I talk about relevant words, sometimes what I tend to do is, or what I used to do is, I used to copy keywords from the job description and paste it into the CV. So for instance, if they talk about strong team management skill or strong communicator or can work in a team, I then go and copy those keywords and place it in my resume. Because remember, you have to tailor your CV to the job that you want. So your CV might look different for each job that you apply for. And also you can add these keywords in your cover letter. So if they say they want someone who is an all-rounder creative, you can say, I'm a creative person, I like working in teams, but I can also work independently, I'm a fast worker, etc. So just try to copy or mimic. You can even change the keywords from job description and add it to your own. Another important thing is to check grammar. And there are apps like Grammarly and Word to check your grammar. It's very poor to see spelling mistakes in CVs and as CVs or websites actually. Just get it proof checked by a copywriter or check Grammarly apps like that to help you. And then I would refrain from using progress bars. Now, this is actually very true for junior designers and specifically where they add the progress bar InDesign 80%, Illustrator 20%, JavaScript 5%. I see that a lot in junior CVs and resumes. I strongly encourage juniors to leave it out completely. What you want to do is you want to add those skills and software knowledge skills that you have to the CV, regardless or if you are a beginner or a pro. Reason why I'm saying that is when you get the job or in any work, you are in any way going to learn on the job. You're going to learn new skills about JavaScript or Figma, etc. So I would refrain from using those progress bar or percentage bars and just leave it out completely. At the end of the day, you're trying to sell yourself. You don't want to question yourself. Can you do it? Can I really do it? You have to sell yourself in such a way that you actually can do it, regardless if you're a junior or senior. So, and in the world of today where everyone is working remotely, why not make it innovative, you know? Why not make a recording, a TikTok video or a video recording, or just call them randomly and say, hey, I want to chat. And I thought it would be good to share some examples of interesting CVs. I'm actually going to share my own one, which I found, which I think it needs some serious updating, but I only discovered it when I did this presentation. So as you can see, this is my personal one. As I mentioned, I'm in need of an update. This one specifically is 2 pages long, and the reason why it's 2 pages long is because I've got a lot of skills and a lot of work experience. If someone is senior, they might have more content to work for or to cater into a page. So the more jobs you have, the longer your pages are going to get. So in my case, I've got a lot of work or jobs that I've worked at, and I also listed my duties underneath each other. And that makes it a bit long. So you can see the first page is just basically experience and contact me. I've got a little bit of an explanation there. And the second page is basically just my tools and languages, where I went to school or university, and then the About Me section, I've got a little bit of a mission statement. Now this is where I bring a bit of my personality in. It's my purpose, what I want to do in my career. And I want to show you another one that I think is very interesting. And if I'm going to update mine, I'll actually use this example as an example. So this is also another CV that I popped about. And in this CV, you can clearly see the personality of this person. He's a very creative person. It looks like he likes illustration. It's very graphical. You can even see he added a photo. Some people ask me, should you include photos or should you not? My personal opinion is I don't like to include photos of myself onto the resume because I think that you can see what I look like on LinkedIn. But I think this is a well-crafted photo. I mean, you can't even see his eyes, so he disguised himself a bit. It's probably to create a sense of plainness and curiosity, which I find very nice. You can see it's very nicely condensed, short and sweet, not as long as my one. So these days, I think what's happening is people are keeping it to 1 page only. And if you want more information, you can either go to LinkedIn. I think that's becoming a popular trend. And at the end of the day, people don't have time to read. They don't want to read 2 pages long of work history. They can go and see all the other information on your LinkedIn. That's why LinkedIn is actually so crucial these days, because it's seen as a second CV almost. Then I found this resume probably the best I've seen so far. He made it very interactive. So he treated his uh, his clickouts, his links as buttons. So it creates a sense of interactiveness. And when you hover over here, he added these nice little hover effects. This is all done in the PDF. I was actually surprised that you can do this in the PDF. So here you can see it tells you where he's from. He's from Vienna. You can say, you can go click out on his website. There's a selection of his work. So he basically went and condensed everything in a one page. My website and what I'm about, here it is, bam. And this is quite a strong resume. I even like the typography treatment. You can see he's bringing a bit of a brand, his own brand in here as well. So go back to the presentation. Yeah, I thought those were quite strong CVs. So for me to take note that to keep it shorter and sweeter. And now we're going to talk about portfolios. I'm going to put them on my screen here. So at the end of the day, we need to remember that you only have 5 seconds to hook people with your portfolio. Now, what I mean by that is you only have 5 seconds to make a good first impression. Remember, people look with their eyes. And if they don't see what they want, they're going to go, they're going to leave. So you need to impress someone with your work within the first 5 seconds. You need to literally grab them. Next page. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to talk about how you can showcase yourself with your splash page. Now, the splash page is normally the home page. So it's the first page people see when they land onto your website. And that's like the first impression someone gets from you. And when someone lands or a recruiter lands on your website, they want to see something that catches them. And how to make an effective splash page is by creating a sense of personality. Maybe you've got a logo, maybe you've created a personal brand for yourself and you market that as your own brand. I know a lot of people are hovering on the whole personal brand thing, but I think it's actually strong because it helps you stand out and it gives yourself, it shares yourself to the world as your own purpose, basically. And then you define your purpose. So what is it that you want to do? What is your purpose? Are you a designer that wants to change the world? Do you want to help people improve their websites? Are you creative with a coding mind? What is your purpose? And that you can define with your website landing page. Normally you see people have this introduction copy at the top, and normally there they would say, I'm a developer, I'm interested in this and this, and they keep it short and sweet. But I'll share examples as I go along. And then you also want to stand out from the crowd. And I know it is difficult because the world, there's a lot of designers and developers out there. But essentially, you want to create something that hasn't been seen or done before, essentially. And I think that is quite important, So, yeah, let me just carry on to the next page. What I want to talk about is the tone of voice. So, are you your introduction, even your about me page, is it going to be in the first person or third person? What I mean by that is, are you going to write I am, or are you going to write we are? So you have to think about how you are going to write and present yourself. Are you going to be personal, or are you going to be more professional? So you need to decide when you craft your landing page, how do I want to be seen? Do I want to be personal or professional? So some people, they've got their own personal website, they write I am. Or some people might have an agency and say we are. So even one designer, maybe he's working with another designer, and then they have a website combined saying we are creative technologists working with X, Y, and Z, just to give you an example. I just want to quickly hop onto the chat here while I was wondering, okay, I'll get to the question after the chat. So yeah, just think about your tone of voice. And if you guys are struggling with copywriting and things like that, rather get in a professional like a copywriter or ultimate with a copywriter. Just ask them to quickly go through your copy, even for your resume and CV. Maybe they can come up with a better word for things. I always check my copy through a copywriter, so I ask the copywriter can just quickly check my wording if it's right or whatnot. Yeah, so get a copywriter. To showcase yourself. Remember, first impression counts, and you want to consider how you want to come across and what people will see, whether that's online or in person. And I can't stress enough the importance of your presence on online platforms. So what you present on the World Wide Web should echo your purpose. So if you are passionate about, I don't know, climate change, you can bring in those elements into your work. And ultimately, you want to look professional, whether it's offline or online. You want to look presentable as well. You don't want to have a bed photo of yourself, or look a bit weird. Not that I think anyone like you guys are like that, but it's just an example of presenting yourself professionally, whether it's online or offline. Now we go into what actually goes into a portfolio. And I want to emphasize this is a guideline, it's not a checklist. It's based on my personal experience and what I've seen so far in the industry. So don't think this is the be all end all. We're just sharing what we know and what we've seen professionally. So a portfolio normally consists of a good case study. Now, case studies are normally the projects that you are working on or have worked on, whether you were at the previous company or even a freelance or side project. Case studies are normally a case study where you actually list all the requirements of the project, who was involved, what typography or what projects were you doing, and then you just show what the project was about. Sometimes these case studies are being used at presentations in agencies. And then what the designer will do is they will take these case studies that has been created at the agency level and just use it for their own portfolio. So it's normally just a projects page and showing what you've done, what was the brief, what was the outcome, what was the celebration thereof. And the case study always needs to tell a story. Remember, it's the first thing that recruiters are going to look at is your portfolio case studies. And there are various case studies out there. Some people use different methodologies for case studies or how to structure them. I personally have a very short method for my case studies. I don't have very long case studies. It depends as well on what the project was about. So if you're going to have a UX UI projects, for instance, you're going to have a big case study. But whereas if it's going to be a development case study or just a website revamp or logo revamp, it might be a shorter case study. But sometimes UI UX case studies can get quite extensive because in there people will show a lot of work. They will show beginning, middle, and end, the story, but they will also include research, data, findings, process work, and in all fairness, it's all good and well, but I try to keep my process work short and sweet, so only 2 pages long. People don't have time to look at process work. They are interested interested about the results more than the process work in actual fact. But your case study should ultimately tell a story. It's like reading a book with your eyes. So people are going to look at your case study and read it from top to bottom, and it should flow nicely. So you should think about it as if you are reading your first project, and then how does it flow at the end? What was the end result? And I've seen case studies, some case studies that are extensively long, and it bores me by the third slide. And I've seen short case studies that are quick and effective. I always stress quality above quantity. If you don't have enough case studies in your portfolio, rather just focus on 2 to 3 case studies. And it's better to craft them perfectly than having 6 to 8 mundane projects. You don't want to, put a case study up of all your work. Focus on the ones that are strong and memorable. I just thought I'd see this portfolio of a developer. And you can see clearly here the strong use of typography. I immediately know, okay, Henry is a developer. He's based in England. You can see it's very clean. And I think it is a picture of himself there. I'm not actually sure. But also there, you can see the whole layout. It's clean. It's to the point. He only has 4 projects, which is good. You don't want to have 6, 10 projects on your website. You want to choose your 2 or 3. Now in this case, probably because it's got more experience or work, 4 strong case studies. So when I click in there, I'm going to see the whole case study. But this is just a nice layout to show you guys what you can achieve. And I think it's a good showcase of what a portfolio website could look like. And now I'm going to share a case study outline, and this is just from Lisa Fisher that I got resource from the internet. And like I mentioned, there are various ways to build out case studies. This is just one example. Some people have quite an extensive list, like hers. This one is quite long actually. And then you get shorter ones where people only have problem or idea, problem, solution. They only have 3 components. What was the problem of the project or the brief? What was the idea? And then what did we came up with? And the findings and celebration. So in this case, she talked about her role in the team. And I will show you an example of that what the goals, objectives are, the research that they've done, the audience, and she also included a mood board, some sketches and wireframes. Again, here we can see this is a UI UX case study outline. And then she started with user testing, curated design, exploration, and final design. Now I want to mention that when you get to your final design, make sure that you include it in mock-ups. So people want to see what your work looks like in application form. So that is what it will look like on a hand, in the telephone or mobile, and what it will look like on the screen. And I'll share an example for that. The reason I'm saying that is people can't visualize or see what it will look like when it's out there in the real world. They can't visualize. Some people can, some can't, especially CEOs. They are not visually inclined to see what certain things will look like on a billboard. So you have to show them what it will look like. I just thought when you lay out your portfolio pages, this is now for regardless if it's your portfolio website or even your resume, just think about how you want it to flow. Is there negative space? Is there text? Are you going to use videos or GIFs? And think about how your images are going to be optimized. It's a creative process of laying out your portfolio. And it's thinking of how can you make a lot of work condensed in a short amount of time. So you really have to put on your layout or your DTPT skills, your desktop publishing skills, and just think about how you want it to be laid out. Is it going to be image, text, or just a video in the center and then text on the left? But make sure it flows nicely. You don't want to cramp in a lot of projects into one page. Rather focus on the images and components that are strong. And less is more always, if your page or if you have more items required than the actual page, let it click out. Let it click out to a different page. Say, for instance, you have research, or you've done some research, or you've got extra wireframes or stuff like that. Let those things click out. You can even create a PDF document with all your process work. Sometimes people will ask, what was the process of the whole document in your case studies in the interview stage? Normally, and it's sad to say it, but the portfolio is merely there for aesthetics kind of way, with 2 to 3 process work, but it's just there for people to see what you did and what does it look like. When it comes to the nitty-gritty, talk to them about that when you get to the interview stage. When you get there, you're going to anyway talk about your work more elaboratively. So think about how you can condense all your work in a nice space. And I will show you some examples of websites that I've found that are actually quite effective and, finishing the job, does the job quite well there. Okay, so yeah, I've got a layout example of what we just talked about now. So what I meant is there's a negative space there. You can see the way that it's laid out is quite nice and clean. It's not cluttered in any way. And you can see the text is short. Sometimes people put in a lot of text, and honestly, I think it should be short, just a few captions here and there, and get to the point, because you want people to read through it nicely and see what the work is about. You don't want to cram too much into a space. If the text was longer there, up to there, I would have moved on. But the first second when I land on a page like this, I want to see what is it about, was the solution, and read on and go to the next project. I don't want to spend too much time reading or looking for something or trying to figure out what this project was about. I want to see it from the get-go. We're thinking, well, it's all good and well, and we see now it's quite the portfolios that what I've talked about is mainly based on design portfolios and not development portfolios for developers. And I actually had a chat with Oliver during the week to ask him, what do developers do? I know they build websites, but what do they do? Do they have like any special CV places? I know some people use read.cv, but he and MJ told me about GitHub, and to be honest, I'm not familiar with GitHub. I've got a profile. I will probably be making some contribution to it this year. I know what it is, but I'll probably look into it this year. And I see a lot of developers actually use GitHub as a social platform to network and share code and stuff like that. So I thought, let me just share this little snippet. And some people use GitHub as your portfolio, contribute to others, and create a nice README file. I've asked Oliver if he could share his GitHub profile at the end of the talk. If he wants to, he's welcome, but we'll get to that stage later. If he doesn't, it's all good. Maybe he'll pop it in the chat. But yeah, I see people are using GitHub for that. And I came across this lady. She's got quite a nice, Julia, got quite a nice GitHub page. Now, from a hiring perspective, I can clearly see that she's a developer. Her page is development, it looks like a developer's page, even has some portfolio work there at the bottom. You guys can go have a look at her page and you can go follow her there. But she's got a good example of what a developer's CV could look like on GitHub. I also want to show you another important thing. I know I think I've mentioned it, but don't use Word as well. I've seen a lot of applications where people use Word for CVs, and we don't encourage that because it just gets it's not professional. Rather use a PDF or Figma that you export to PDF, and if you really can't use any other CV platform like read.cv or any of those things, you could potentially use Google Docs. Now, what I like about this CV is that he actually went and created a whole CV format in Google Docs. And so when you open it, it just shows this. And he's got nice case studies there. So I think that's quite a good portfolio. I want to actually share with you. Let me just go back to my task. Okay, yeah. Let's see what we have. Okay. So now that you've got your resume and your CV and your portfolio ready, now you're ready to job hunt, or in other cases, ready to find a client. I do want to mention that what I'm sharing today might be job hunting related, but it also applies to freelancers. So it's the same principle for freelance. Get curate a good portfolio and use your portfolio to market yourself. And people will always come and look for you, even if it's through social media or word of mouth. If you do a really good job, people will spread the word and they will always come back to your website as a reference. Okay, so now how does the job hunting work? And the following examples I'm going to share here is from a hiring point of view. So hiring manager or recruiter, I want to emphasize that I've been part of a hiring process before. So what I'm sharing here is based on my personal experience. I'm not sure how things work in Norway, but this is just to give you an example of what I've experienced when I worked at my previous companies and hired candidates. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of what to expect when you get hired. So the pre-interview phase normally happens when you send your documents to a recruitment agency or a hiring manager. Now, I, as a hiring manager, are going to look at your CV and your portfolio, and I'm going to look and see if you are a suitable candidate, if you've got the right experience for this job, and do you have the skills and where you've graduated. It's like a casual, it's like meeting someone on a blind date. I'm sending you my portfolio. Am I gonna look at it? Am I not? If I see what I like, then I'm gonna see if you are a suitable fit. Normally what happens then is we then send you an email and say, we really like your document that you've supplied. We think that you are a suitable candidate. Would you like to come in for an interview? And then they will say yes. And then the first interview commences. Now, during the first interview, it's quite small, although the ones that I've experienced, it's quite small, 1 or 2, 3 people maybe, that look at your work, they read your documents, they read your CV, you chat casually about your work, you tell them about what you've had, what experience you've got, where you've worked, and what are your passions. You share some things that aren't, mentioned in your CV. Maybe you tell them about your side projects or what you like to do over weekends. That is where they really want to get to know you. As a hiring manager, I want to see what you are about, what are your skills like? Can you do certain things? Are you creative? I'm trying to get to know you better. I want to see if our values align with yours. So that is what the first interview is about. So when you're done with your first interview, you get on to the second interview. Now the second interview is quite intense. The reason why I'm saying that is it involves a lot of stakeholders. So in my case, that's where you get involved with higher management. So HR, CEO, creative directors, and all of those people. That is where they will be involved in the second interview. Normally, back in the day, people used to do one interview and it's done. But I think nowadays people do 2 interviews, but the second interview is getting to know the executives. And when you get to the second interview, you're just making sure that your values align with the company. To see if you really are a good fit, and that with the HR and CEOs is that you can show them their work as well. You can talk about your work, you tell them what you're passionate about the company, you really want to work there. And that is the stage. The second interview is the stage where you need to really sell yourself. So you need to prepare for all the questions that they're going to ask you. And you need to literally sell yourself. And regardless now, if they ask you some weird questions, you need to be prepared. And by that stage, even the first interview, I would do a bit of research on the company. But even if you get to the second interview, maybe do a bit of research with the executives as well, the CEOs and stuff like that. And then when they are happy with the second interview, they normally give you a design challenge or a code challenge. And I've heard numerous coders get code challenges, code tasks, and design challenges. I've seen them myself, done them, been there, done that. And that is merely for the company to see what your work looks like. Can you really do the job that you've told them you can do? And maybe you just show them what you're capable of doing. You show them your technical skills and maybe your creative skills. And based off on the design challenge or code challenge, I'm not too sure how it works with the coding challenges, but from the design challenges, if we see what we like, we then decide, okay, no, I think we're going to go with you. Signed, sealed, delivered, you've got the job. So it is quite a lengthy process, especially when it's corporate level. I know corporate do tend to have longer interviews than agency, but it depends on the company where you're going to work at. So just be prepared, and all will be well. Be prepared for questions about the company, about life, and show up and present yourself professionally. Even if they ask weird questions, just be prepared. Be prepared to answer unexpected questions, things that you've never thought of. And now we want to know where to look for jobs. And thank you to Januray, who actually told me about fin.io. That's where you can look for work in Norway. Personally, I like LinkedIn because that's where recruiters and hiring managers live. And I've seen a lot of people lately share their work on LinkedIn, and they'll just get like comments, can I DM you for freelance work, or are you open to work on the side? Stuff like that. I think a lot of developers and designers are these days posting their work on LinkedIn to, market themselves and grow their networks and show people what they can do. And I think LinkedIn is a very good place to look for work. There is a method of looking for jobs in LinkedIn. There's a lot of SEO and keywords and stuff involved in LinkedIn, but you could, now I can't show you how to do it from my profile because I'm based in South Africa, but you could literally just type there at the top, recruiting Norway, and all the Norwegian recruiters will pop up from various companies. Some of them have their messages open, so you can message them directly and say, hey, I'm Christian, I'm based in Norway, I am a junior developer, I would love to have a chat with you about X, Y, and Z. Would you be interested to have a quick call? Then you send it, and you will be surprised how many people actually respond to that. If you show you are enthusiastic and you're eager to meet new people, people will reach out to you actually. And obviously the other one is social media. So that could be Twitter. I see a lot of people posting their work on Twitter, as well as hiring manager asking for work on Twitter. So they will say, we've got a role open, we've got a dev position. Do I know any devs or designers in my network? LinkedIn, Dribble, Twitter. I'm not sure about Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. Yeah, maybe TikTok. Try TikTok. I don't know what's TikTok like. And then network events. So I know it's difficult to meet in person these days, but if you can attend a virtual workshop, do that. Because the reason why I'm saying is I've attended quite a few virtual events, and afterwards I would go and connect with them and have a chat. Or we normally get like a list of the people involved. So I would see Jane is attended this event, and then I'll go and look her up on LinkedIn afterwards, and we'll chat. We'll say, "Hey, I see you've attended this event. What did you think about da?" And just by making that connection, immediately I'm increasing my chance, or I'm building connection with someone. Maybe it's in the UK, Amsterdam, Australia, doesn't matter. That way I am building a connection. People, when they're looking for jobs, or when they know of someone looking for jobs, you're already in their mind because you made that connection. So it's good to build connection with people virtually. I'll give you an example. Even myself, I've built a few connections overseas, and some of them are based in New Zealand, and so once when they want something, they pop me a mail and say, "Hey, I'm looking for this and this and this," or they, I've connected with them through a networking event virtually, so now I know of them, and I can, when I'm there one day in New Zealand, I can just go to the offices or whatever. But you'll be surprised how powerful networking is, especially on LinkedIn and virtual events. So if you attend an event, you see someone's name, even if it's a speaker, go look them up on LinkedIn afterwards, and you'll be surprised how many respond. I've also added a few tips and resources. So the first is the portfolio tips Notion board. I don't know if you guys know of Notion, but some people even create portfolios in Notion. I've seen some of them. There's creative ways to showcase your work these days. So have a look at those. And then another Notion board about portfolio references. I didn't want to list like a gazillion of links, so I just made a board and popped everything in there. And then last but not least, talk about portfolios, and this designer or hiring manager actually critiques portfolios. This is quite a long talk, it's 3 hours, where she actually goes through a lot of portfolios, and she gives nice tips. I've watched it recently, and it just blows your mind. She really gives good advice here, and she used to work at Google, so she also has a tech side in her. So I would recommend this book to anyone. And I just want to quickly share the websites that I saw that was quite effective. I'm going to share this case study. Now, this is from a designer. Here you can clearly see what this project is about. It's a travel nest, and he is probably going to build a design system. He tells you about the role, what his role was in the project. Now, this is important. You give an explanation of the project. What was your role? And then afterwards, this is also I prefer this layout when I do my portfolio. Your role, challenge, solutions, and then your challenge, idea, and solution. So that's the way he structured it, also the way I would structure it. Then he talks about the challenge. Can you see how short the copy is not long. He talks about the constraints, and then he talks about the first step of the execution. Now, this is a work in progress. It's not done yet, but already he's showing us what he's working on. So I can now see, okay, here's the process work. So this is what it looks like. This is the libraries. Then he shares more. And then he shares the foundation. Here you see how he mocked everything up as well. So he says more on DMs. So I don't know what that means, but anyway, he doesn't share the whole case study. That's fine. Immediately I can see what this project is about. So there's no need for me to actually go and ask him what it's about from the get-go. I can see, okay, it's a brand guideline. I now see what it is for Travel Nest. But I like the way he laid it out quite nicely. I would have minimized the process work a bit, but you know, it's his portfolio, it's his work. I am just looking at it. And then I thought of maybe sharing a design agency, Scandinavian Design Group, their case studies. Maybe you guys can take inspiration from this. But they recently did a rebranding of Norwegian, staying together, stronger together brand guide or brand CI. You can see they've added some nice videos here as well. You can add videos if you want to, but just try to keep it a bit short. And here's some examples. Here you see some process work. Quite nice. They've added a lot of motion, but immediately you can see the way it flows. It flows real nicely. Image, copy, text, and there I see it in the mock-up. Now this is what I mean about showing what the work will look like on application. And there you can see it nicely on a screen. I don't know where they got that markup from actually. Then I thought of another designer, developer. I quite like this website as well because he takes accessibility in mind. You can see it's very clear, clean, not a lot of images, and I think it loads quite fast. There's not a lot of data to load. Even does a bit of writing. I like the fact that it's clean, clear, to the point. You know what he does in the first 5 seconds when I open this. I see, okay, he does accessible web experiences with creativity, where creativity meets technology. Now this is a good example of web and graphic design maybe. And another one I wanted to share, and this is quite interesting. The following one is a creative developer, but this is more of a freelance website, I would say. It's catered to freelance jobs, not necessarily, you know, job hunting, but I could say this website is mostly based on freelance work, or you probably want to get more freelance work from this website. The reason why I'm saying it, you can see it's only available after February 22nd. And he's got a picture of himself, a nice about me section. And yeah, he's got his work again. Got quite a few work there, and there he's got his creative experiments. So he does creative stuff as well, which is quite nice. Now we can see he also does a bit of creative illustration or things like that on the side. And there he says, I'm available for freelance work. So immediately what I'm seeing from this website is this person doesn't want to maybe do a full-time job. Maybe you just want to work freelance. That's the vibe I'm getting from this website. You can see you also have a GitHub profile. So this is like a freelance developer looking for freelance work. And this got an email, Twitter, all nicely set up. So I just thought, let me share you this example. Also like the typography used, very bold. And I also asked one of the students if I could share her work. So could you see something? Here's another, sorry, I'll get back to the other students' work. But here's another developer, a UX technologist. I actually don't know what that is, to be honest. But some people only have one page. That's fine. If you are someone who just wants to have one page and have a PDF portfolio, that's fine. If you want to keep it one page, you can even say, email me for my work or portfolio available upon request, which can be problematic because hiring managers will not request to see your portfolio. They want to see it here. But for coders, developers, I think one pages are nice. You know, some people only have one page, and that's fine. Maybe you could see then the portfolio in GitHub or wherever you want to link it out to. And I just want to quickly share a student, Charlotte, who sent me her portfolio to review in one of, I think it was May, I can't remember what class it was, what task. But I thought I just wanted to share this project to all of you to show you how well she laid out the work and her portfolio. She used good typography. There's a name and the icons on the left hand side. Again, she played around with the whole layout of the website. Now, when she sent it to me, it was an actual website. It wasn't pages, but I thought, let me just quickly flip through. Again, you can see how nicely she laid out everything. A lot of nice breathing space and white space around here. And her work, there's a case studies. I would, maybe in future relook at how to lay this out. But I mean, it's a good start. At least there's something. I would also just increase the photo. But overall, this is nicely done. I like the use of typography. It's clear to the point. I can see what she does. I can see where she wants to go. She's got all the profiles there, everything there. And it's just a good execution of layout, typography, and space. So I thought, let me share her work to show you one student's example and what you could potentially do when you get to your SP projects, your semester projects. I just want to quickly go back to my presentation. And now we are at the stage of asking questions. I just want to quickly stop sharing. Guys, if you want to quickly, I'm just going to quickly go through the question and answer them from Ilya. Stop saying there. I was wondering regarding that CV about the art director with the drawings over his eyes. there weren't a lot of description regarding his job experience, like what he did at the job. Only student project leader, but nothing about the kind of projects he led. Isn't that something that you should include in the CV? So Ilya, again, as I mentioned, okay, I'll get to your second question over. So Ilya, and forgive me if I pronounce your name incorrectly, but some people, like I mentioned, some people keep their, you're welcome to switch on your cameras for a question. I just want to quickly answer this one. The reason why I'm thinking he only listed certain jobs or whatever the case is, I think he did it intentionally. He's trying to keep it short and sweet. If you compare my CV with his, you can see mine is a bit lengthier than his. But what I'm thinking, the reason why I did that is he kept it short. If you want more information, you can probably go to his LinkedIn page. As I mentioned before, a lot of people these days treat LinkedIn as a second CV. They might want to see the other information on LinkedIn. And in the case of when you get interviewed, there you're going to also mention to them where you've worked, what you did at your previous companies, what was your roles at your previous companies, and what you talked about, basically, what you did there. So it all depends on the interview itself, how you want to structure it. Maybe, I think personally these days, CVs can just be one pager. Mine is a bit long, two pages, but I think it can be a bit shorter, actually. No, let me get to the next question. Let's show the camera here. What is the difference between CV and portfolio from Chris? CV is a written document. Portfolio is a visual document. That is the only difference I can see, actually. The one is visual, the other is words. I meant question, not question. Okay, don't worry, Uba. Let me just see if I got to you. Okay, you mentioned that we can get some weird question while being interviewed. Can you explain what you mean by that? I'll give examples. I once had a weird question when I did an interview, and I can't remember what that was, but it was something that you might get a question that's not related to the job at all. And I remember it clearly because the question they asked was not related to the job. They asked me like a personal question. Now I can't remember. But some companies will ask you like questions that are not relevant to the job, just to get to know you a bit better, maybe they will ask you some random things. I don't know. It's just a fun way for them to get to know you better. And don't stress too much about it. They might ask, do you have a boyfriend or are you married? Which is not actually their business, but some people might ask questions like that. Or they will ask, do you play poker on Fridays, or whatever the case may be. Just be prepared for such weird questions. You have your own limit. You think too much pages on a portfolio, do you think? Oh goodness, yeah, the pages of a portfolio, there is a limit in my perspective. From my personal opinion, I think personally, I think don't make your portfolio 20 or 30 pages long. If you are going to make a portfolio, stick to 2 to 3 projects, whether that's PDF or portfolio. Make it 2 to 3 projects. And remember, try to keep it short and sweet. You don't want to waste people's time. Like I mentioned, some people just flick through it instantly. They just go through it. Remember, hiring managers get like 50, 100, 200 CVs a day, CVs and portfolios a day. So they want to work quickly, fast as possible through it. It's a sad reality, but these 3 portfolios, and don't make it longer than 30 pages, 20 to 30 pages max. I've seen some people have like 100 pages, and I'm like, what should I do with 100 pages? I don't even read a 100-page book in a day. How can I read a 100-page portfolio a day? It doesn't make sense. Um, Hello, is it wiser to host our website online or is it enough to link to GitHub? Oh, goodness. Thank you for asking that question, Rakadas Selfie. I don't know how you pronounce your name, but anyway, you can chat to me if you want to, but I would say the more platforms you have, the better. So if you have an online portfolio, yes, Ollie, whatever, you can chat.
Okay, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I was just going to mention that there's actually something called GitHub Pages, which comes free with a regular GitHub account, and that will host simple HTML, CSS. So if you do want to create your portfolio as an HTML, CSS project, you can then host it for free on GitHub as part of your package. So that's a very good place to host it. It's online. There's a link you can send out and put on your CV. And then it's very easy to edit because you're just editing straight onto GitHub.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you so much. And don't you want to chat about your GitHub profile? Maybe just a quick 53 seconds of what would you recommend from your side?
Yeah, sure. It says that I can't share my screen. I think I'm not a co-host. I don't know if you can make me a co-host quickly. But just to give a bit of background, so obviously, if you're a designer, you are really gonna put all your effort into making your CV look great and stand out visually. But if you are less design oriented and you're more of a developer, and you are more concentrating on showing off your code, then GitHub is definitely the place to go. So here we go. I can share now. Here we go. Okay, so we're now looking at my GitHub page. It is not the best GitHub page in the world. It's not highly optimized because I'm not in a position where I'm seeking out employment. So if I was going for a new job or something like that, I would spend a lot of more time working on this. But just to give you an overview of what we're looking at here, you can see at the top here, I've got overview repositories, 11 projects, packages, and stars. So this is the most interesting thing for an employer. Actually, we'll go back to the overview for a second. So in the overview, this is a very, very important box here. This is your contributions. So this shows you every time you pushed code to any project in your GitHub account. And obviously, the more contributions more regularly shows that you are working on your projects very, very frequently, which is a great thing for employers to see. If we go across here, this is someone who is very, very famous. Hopefully you have heard of him before. He is the man who's responsible for the Linux operating system. And if we look at his contributions, you can see that he, apart from a week here and maybe a weekend every now and then, he's actually working on his code base every single day. This is because massive companies rely on this software, and as soon as an issue gets raised, it needs to be fixed immediately. Might be a massive security issue for the whole world if he doesn't do that. So this guy has a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, and this is an example of like one of the top programmers in the world, how sort of basic it can look. Like he doesn't need to sell himself either because he's very famous already, just like myself. And then this one here, this is an example of someone I know very well. He has put a little bit of effort into selling himself on his page here. You can see this is his, statistically speaking, this is his most frequently used languages, and there's quite a nice sort of mix between TypeScript and C# here. On the side, you have his employer, his GitHub page. So if we go to his GitHub page, this is then effectively his sort of CV or his portfolio. And in terms of like making it unique and adding character. You can see that he's designed this thing to sort of look and feel like a terminal application. Now, this might not be the best idea for a recruiter, because recruiters often aren't the most tech literate people in the world. They are just looking for the tech literate people. But this thing for programs is quite fun. We can go help and see what the commands are and say, okay, WM, click here, WM contact. We have his contact details, type WM experience. And we have his CV, WM languages. And this is a nice like interactive way of getting across your skills and sort of showing what you can do, because you can actually go and view the code for this repository. So if an employer wants to check up on exactly how that was created, you can see cool root terminal, go into the source and look at the files here. So this is what makes GitHub really great as a platform for developers to sell their own work. Your code should speak for itself. If you have one very, very major repository, that's just as good as having 15 very small repositories. It's not about cramming in as much stuff as you can. It's about having quality and a little bit of quantity. There's a whole lot more I could show you going behind the scenes in GitHub, but we're going to save that for another session. So just in terms of presenting yourself, the contributions is very important. So make sure that you have a couple of repos that you commit to on a regular basis. It may even just be taking notes. I think if we go into my repositories, I have code projects in here. I also have projects where I'm just taking notes. What's a good example of that? HP Conception. So HP Conception is just text files. There's no code in there. It's just me taking notes with someone I know about a code project they're going to want in the future. You can see notes from Call with Sophie. So every time I update my notes in this package, I'm going to get a contribution, which shows an employer that I'm constantly working on improving my stuff. You may notice that Salomzi and I both use a profile image instead of a picture of ourselves. Benita mentioned this earlier. I, as a rule, don't show a photo of myself to any employer. They can see me for the first time when they meet me. I don't have a photo on my LinkedIn. I don't have photos anywhere. On Discord, you may have noticed the same thing. This for me is just a case of trying to avoid bias of any sort. I want an employer to be interested in me purely based on how I've presented myself and the code that I have produced publicly. So that is my sort of quick, how do I make the notes in VSC? So I use a language called Markdown, which is a very, very simple way of decorating like a plain text file. It's actually how I write all of your feedback as well when I'm marking submissions. It's how I write any sort of README file. It can be converted very easily into either PDF or HTML. So I just literally open a new file. I save that file as notes.md, and I begin just writing directly into the text file and saving and committing it just as if it was code. So yeah, that's how I'm note-taking using GitHub. Make all my notes in VS. Yep, I do not use Word. I do not like using Word. Anytime I'm writing anything, I'm using VS Code. I write emails to my mother in VS Code. I write anything that needs to be prepared first, I do it in Markdown inside VS Code, yeah.
Thank you, Ollie. You are indeed probably one of the most secretive people I've ever met. Even to your dear mother, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Oliver, for sharing that. And I think that will be really helpful for students to see see the GitHub, especially from design to the dev side. It's interesting how we both differ in terms of branding ourselves. Looks like some people want to brand and some don't want to brand. But again, as Oliver mentioned, it's your career, it's your life, you know, you can decide how you want to present yourself out there. And some people like Oliver decide to go incognito, which is good. Thank you all. I think we're running a bit over time, yeah? Does anyone have any other more questions? You're welcome to switch on your camera or chat to us, switch on your recordings, your audio if you want to chat, or ask me any lastminute.com questions before we wrap up. If you're shy to talk, you can type it in the chat, don't mind. So I think we don't have any more questions. So that concludes. So you don't have any Facebook, Oliver? He doesn't have Facebook, I don't think so, and I don't have Facebook either. I just have Twitter and LinkedIn. Those are the two platforms that I use, and obviously now GitHub. But I'm ready to work on the CA. I strongly advise to have at least one platform. Maybe a strange question. Should we better showcase our work as from end developers, codes, or designers? Both. It's up to you. And like I mentioned, if you are passionate about design and development, show both. If you only want a job in development, then show development side code. Nothing, ultimately, you have to craft your work as the way you want to work someday. So you have to curate your portfolio in such a way and present it in a way that where you want to work. So if you want to do code and development, do both of them at one stage, create a portfolio with both. You can say, I'm a designer with a coding mind, or I am a developer who likes design, you know. So you can basically sell yourself as both. If you only want to do code, then show coding projects. If you only want to do design projects. I know a lot of developers who used to develop, but then gone back to design, or develop designers who've gone developers. So there's a two-way street. What's nice is that you can do a bit of both. So it's up to you. Maybe one day when you work in the real world environment and you see that you actually don't like design, you want to do code, and you jump and create a code portfolio. Anyway, thank you all to those who want to leave. I think that concludes our session. Any more questions, we'll just have to take it up in chat. Thank you all for a lovely session. Thank you for attending.